Good afternoon, everyone. Today has been such an exciting day for Warhammer fans of all kinds, hasn't it? Total War Warhammer 3 has finally crested the horizon, and now the blazing radiance of the grand finale is shining down upon us all. While I would like to just bask in the heat of knowing that Kislev, the gods of chaos, and Cathay, my god, Cathay's actually happening, are on their way, alas, a number of things caught my eye in the trailer that I want to talk about. The first thing we're going to be focusing on is the massive hint of something to come hiding at the end of the trailer. When the mysterious old man, who will have his own video in the near future, moves aside the papers on Tsarina Katarin's desk to reveal that glorious map of Grand Cathay, there is one other important piece of parchment in view. A letter addressed to someone by the name of Yuri. So let's talk about this letter. Then we'll move on to Yuri, the man to whom it is addressed. Written by Katarin herself, this appears to be a missive yet to be sent to an ally of hers, and says the following. Dear Yuri, while my only hope is that this finds you well, I know the hardship and peril into which I have ordered you. Forgive me for sending you far into the north. Duty must come before us, and you are the only one I trust to complete this task. The Boyarin dispatches grow increasingly erratic. He claims to have heard the roar. We must act quickly, and so you have my complete authority. While I secure the throne and see to my realm's borders, Yuri, my Ungol prince, you must ride north to the outpost of Devengard. En route, you will encounter foes both mortal and demon. Over them, and find what is lost. Yours always, Katarin. By the old ones, there is so much to unpack from this missive, so let's not waste any time and dive right in. First, let's dissect the meaning of the letter that the Tsarina of Kislev has sent to this mysterious Yuri. Our young Ice Queen, called such due to her extremely cold demeanor and unrivaled mastery over the mysterious lore of ice magic, has penned this letter with quite the uncharacteristic warmth. It seems quite apparent that Yuri appears to be a lover of the Queen, which actually has some serious ramifications that we will discuss shortly. Katarin apologizes for sending him into the distant north, which means either into the Chaos Wastes, or more likely, the realm of chaos itself, as that seems to be the main brawling ground of Warhammer 3 based on the information located on the Steam page and in the FAQ. She says that duty has to come before us. So yeah, these two seem to be an item. Star-crossed lovers, unfortunately. Then, she mentions that Yuri must accomplish some task that only he can be entrusted with. How curious. Next, we see she has been receiving dispatches from the Boyarin, which is the Kislevite word for noble or lord, along with just boyar. This is likely referring to her father, Boris the Red, who she says has become increasingly erratic and claims to have heard something called the roar. It would seem that Boris has heard the call of Ursun, the god of bears. Katarin has been on the war front, far as she is to the east of Kislev now, based on the maps that we see at the end of the trailer, and must be despairing to be constantly receiving letters from her father in which he endlessly speaks of the father bear calling to him, which she likely interprets as signs of madness. It would seem the pivotal event in the Tsar's life has come to pass. He's abandoning his throne to answer the call of the bear and earn the god's favor, earning his rank as the first high priest of Ursun seen in over 400 years. Perhaps as a part of this, he sought to make a great sacrifice to the father of bears, attempting some ritual to weaken or halt the advance of the dark gods, which, in his most recent letter via voiceover, we know that he failed. So Boris Ursus, as he's now known, likely has vanished and no longer holds the throne. Perhaps he's marched up to the realm of chaos itself, but we'll loop back to this later. On the next line, the Tsarina implores her lover to act quickly, and that he has the full might of her authority behind him, so clearly this task must be of the highest importance. Following that, Katerin tells us that she must remain to secure the throne of her kingdom and her realm's borders, likely because the legions of chaos are rampaging out of the north, and all of Kislev is at stake. Plus, as we just discussed, she likely knew that her father, Tsar Boris, was stepping away from his role, and the crown would fall to her. No doubt, there are many boyars back home who would be all too happy to supplant the Tsarina to further their own ambitions. In this very trailer, we see her reaction to receiving a message from her father that he has failed at some monumental task, a sacrifice that we'll come back to later. At this point, she identifies Yuri as an Ungol prince, which means we can safely identify this man as an interpretation of a character by the name of Yuri Kovalenko. But more importantly, now we can understand why the lovers are truly star-crossed. You see, the nation of Kislev is made up by two separate cultures that have slowly intermixed over the past centuries. The more civilized ruling people, known as the Gospodars, who mostly inhabit the southern regions and major cities of Kislev, while the Ungols are a mostly nomadic people who make up the lower class and are incredibly famous horsemen. While these two cultures have come together over the bloody centuries, a significant amount of harsh cultural stigma between them remains. For Katerin, the latest in a long line of Tsarinas descended from the ancient Khan queens of the Gospodars, to take an Ungol prince for a lover would be an immense scandal. The nobles of the Gospodars, who are the ruling class of Kislev found among the boyars and Drusian, look down upon the Ungols as little more than peasants. Rumors swirl about the nobles that Tsarina Katerin wishes to close the divide between the two peoples, solidifying her rule, appointing individuals to the rank of boyar purely based on their skills and abilities, as opposed to the traditional role of hereditary titles. To reward Ungols with positions of authority or noble rank may well cause political strife among the current Gospodar boyars, if not outright insurrection. So here, we have a young queen, just barely into her 20s, mind you, sending her secret lover of a lesser class on a discreet mission of the utmost importance to the deadly northern realms, while trying to maintain rule of her fracturing country that's under attack by the greatest legions of the dark gods, while her father has gone missing and perhaps died. Paints quite a bleak picture, doesn't it? The final paragraph, unfortunately, is impossible to complete. I did my best to fill in the gaps, but unfortunately the old man's hand blocks some of the text completely. But from what I can make out, she implores Yuri to ride north to an outpost called Dervingard or Devingard. I can't unfortunately find it on any maps. However, she warns that this road will likely be plagued by mortal and demon forces of the dark gods that he must overcome. Should he manage to succeed, he can, quote, find what is lost, unquote. Likely referring to her father, Boris. Truly, this is a fascinating collection of information already given to us. I suspect this is trying to tell us that the High Priest of Ursun still yet lives, and dearly hope that is the case. Yuri, on the other hand, I think is in for a fate worse than death. I'm sure you're all brimming with curiosity on just who this young man is, so let's discuss it. Yuri Kovalenko originally was an Ungol horsemaster archer who achieved some decent renown during the no longer canon event known as the Storm of Chaos. This was the first attempt Games Workshop made at the end times, and it was actively retconned later to make way for the actual end times published towards the end of 8th edition Warhammer Fantasy. Yuri was no one important. He was merely an adventure hook introduced in the Warhammer Fantasy RPG 2nd edition Career Compendium. So, just a few paragraphs meant to give GMs or players ideas for adventures or characters. But here's where it gets interesting. Yuri was not simply a war hero against the forces of chaos. He's not legendary lord material. For you see, something sinister occurred within his story. During his last great battle, Yuri slew a mighty Chaos Champion who grasped in his dying hands a mysterious red jewel. Being a simple man, the Ungol Horsemaster thought little about any potential issues and pocketed the gem for his own, telling no one of his new trinket. This proved to be a terrible mistake, as the gem was no simple ruby, but an arcane device that contained immense power and corruption. That simple act of greed caused Yuri to keep his prize close at hand, which over time mutated him by causing one of his hands to sprout wicked claws. Yet still, he would not relinquish this foul gem, instead accepting his fate of slowly turning into a bloodthirsty beast that will hunt for man-flesh. A sad tale of a man turned mutant due to simple avarice and accepting his dark fate. So now, back in the timeline of Total War Warhammer, it seems our dear Ungol has had his story altered ever so carefully. Much like how the unique hunter heroes of Marcus Wolfhart's campaign are all small lore characters with their stories tweaked just a bit to fit into a new mold. I believe this is what Creative Assembly has done to Yuri. Except this time, it is far more tragic. Mr. Kovalenko is no longer a mere horse archer, but an Ungol prince, and one who has captured the heart of the beautiful Tsarina herself. He has been trusted by her to ride north, alone and in secret, to find and save her father, Boris the Red, before the old Tsar is consumed by his supposed madness in answering the call of Ursun. But I believe that Yuri will fail. On his quest north into the realm of chaos to save Kislev and honor the request of his lover, this young man will face the temptations and corruption of chaos, and he will fall. Whether due to despair at his impossible task, obsession over a mysterious sparkling red jewel, madness caused by the deceit of the dark gods, or consumed by rage and bloodlust along his journey, Yuri Kovalenko will fall to chaos and be reborn as something twisted. Perhaps a chaos spawn? A mortal champion of the gods? Maybe he'll even somehow claim the title of Demon Prince. That may be a worthy reward, should Yuri happen to, say, interrupt and prevent some great sacrifice being made by Boris Ursus, the very man he was sent to aid. I'll even go 2 steps further. But now we're going into really heavy speculation territory, so if you weren't already wearing a tinfoil hat, you're gonna need to put it on. The first step of my crackpot theory is this. I think that our dear Ungol Prince is going to get played, not just by some random demon or aspect of chaos, but by Bellakor himself, the first demon prince, the mightiest of all the undivided demons, perhaps of all demons, who owes allegiance to no one but himself. We will have a big, dedicated video to him and his role in Total War Warhammer tomorrow, Bellakor. But for now, let's sit tight with this. Bellakor cannot manifest into the physical plane, not by himself. He needs a champion, an agent, who can either cast some powerful ritual or spell to break his curse or bring him into reality, or at least allow the Dark Master to possess their body. Very similar to what the Steam page warns us. The 9th starting Legendary Lord. I believe that Yuri is going to be the one to free or unleash or be possessed by Bellakor and unleash the Dark Master upon us all. Lastly, I think we're going to get to watch this happen. This is such a massive puzzle, but with, I think, identifiable pieces that Creative Assembly left for us in this letter. A trail of breadcrumbs telling portents of a tale of heartbreak, corruption, and disaster. I think through some form of media, whether it be videos, short stories, or something else, we're going to get to watch Yuri Kovalenko's descent into corruption. That would truly be an amazing way to usher in Total War Warhammer 3 and show the dangers of chaos and the dark gods. Anyway, those last 2 aspects of my theory I think are totally possible, but I'll admit they feel a little crazy. Maybe I'm grasping at straws, but I really think I'm onto something here. Down in the comment section, I would love to know what you think of today's video. Do you think we'll get to see the tale of Yuri? What are your thoughts on the story of star-crossed lovers, this relationship between him and Katerin? Do you think Boris Ursus may still be alive? Let me know. I am so insanely excited for this game. And if it turns out they're putting in these crazy Easter eggs just into the trailers, like especially just this one little letter, but this one little letter tells so much information in every single line. And they wouldn't have put it there if it was just random gobbledygook. It's too convenient. It makes too much sense. There's got to be something to this. I'm not crazy. I feel like this is an awesome conspiracy to get behind, and I really would love to know your thoughts on it. Real quick, before I go, I want to thank all of my absolutely amazing supporters over on Patreon. Thank you all so very, very much for being so supportive of me and my work here on the channel. I am so deeply humbled and appreciate it. I would also like to give a special shout out to the generous lords themselves at the top of the pyramid. Eric, CJ Ubusta, Scion of the Emperor, the Heretic, Hawk Oddly, Higgins the Seagull, and Kelfatir. Thank you all so much for watching, and I'll see you guys tomorrow. Bye.